Virginia is a land steeped in history, with stately homes, sprawling plantations, and centuries-old estates that have watched the passage of time. By day, these historic homes are admired for their architecture, their gardens, and their storied pasts. By night, however, shadows creep along the halls, doors open and close on their own, and ghostly figures wander the corridors. Footsteps echo where no one walks. Chandeliers swing slightly, though there is no breeze. Some visitors have seen pale figures staring from windows, disappearing when approached, leaving only a chill in the air. Tonight, we will walk the hallways and step onto the porches of the 20 most haunted historic homes in Virginia, where the past refuses to rest and the dead continue to roam. Hello, dear listener. Welcome to another night where history and horror intertwine. Where old walls whisper secrets. And shadows of the past linger longer than they should. I hope you are somewhere safe, maybe alone with headphones. As tonight we explore the haunted historic homes of Virginia. Where every grand estate holds stories of tragedy, betrayal, and restless spirits. Some homes are abandoned yet alive with whispers. Some have lights flickering in empty rooms. Some hallways echo footsteps that have no source. And some visitors have felt cold hands brush their shoulders or heard their names called softly from dark corners. Before we enter these homes, tell me in the comments, if you had to spend one night alone in a haunted historic home, would you stay in the grand parlor with its high ceilings or explore the dusty attic where shadows move freely? Take a deep breath. The doors are opening. Bacon's Castle stands as a striking testament to 17th century architecture, a house built with towering brick chimneys and ornate gables that catch the sunlight during the day. Its historic significance draws visitors eager to explore its aged walls and intricate details. Yet, behind the grandeur, the house holds a different kind of presence, one that has lingered for centuries, whispered about by those who have ventured inside after the sun dips low. Visitors speak of shadowy figures moving silently along the hallways. At first, these glimpses are fleeting, a shape disappearing just beyond a doorway or around a corner. The shadows seem deliberate in their movements, not random flickers of light or imagination, gliding along the wooden floors and disappearing when approached. Whispers echo in empty rooms, soft at first, like the rustle of fabric or the wind through the eaves. But the more attentive the listener, the clearer the voices become, speaking in tones that seem both familiar and foreign. They do not form words fully comprehensible to the living, yet they convey a sense of longing and unrest. Some say the whispers are remnants of conversations from centuries past, lingering echoes of the house's turbulent history. The rooms themselves seem to hold the energy of the past. Cold air gathers near old windows, even on warm days, brushing against visitors' arms as if someone unseen stands nearby. Many report feeling icy fingers touch their skin, a sensation fleeting but unmistakable. It is not menacing, yet it instills a shiver, a reminder that the house is not empty, that its walls remember more than the living can perceive. In the grand hall, light and shadow play across the walls in strange patterns. Candles flicker despite no breeze, and reflections in glass panes sometimes reveal figures absent from the room. Guests moving through the corridors have glimpsed dark shapes peering from corners or leaning against walls, only to vanish when looked at directly. The presence feels patient and watchful, as though the spirits of Bacon's castle still wander the house, observing and recalling lives long concluded. Even the staircases seem to have a life of their own. Footsteps echo on the steps when no one ascends or descends. A rhythm that follows the patterns of old daily routines. The sound is faint at first, barely distinguishable from the creaking of the wood, but it grows more deliberate as visitors move closer. Fading only when the stairs are fully inspected. Some rooms are particularly active. Windows that once overlooked fields now show no view of the outside, only a sense of depth and shadow within. Visitors have felt a presence by the windows, a cold hand brushing lightly against their arm as they lean to look out. Others have noticed furniture slightly shifted upon return to a room, though no living hand could have moved it. It is as if the castle itself rearranges its pieces, maintaining its own unseen order. At night, the castle transforms. The weight of history seems heavier. And the whispers are louder, threading through hallways and rooms. Curling along the ceilings. Some have heard soft footsteps pacing above them. Even in areas long unused or inaccessible. The air feels thick, filled with memories. Almost tangible, pressing lightly against the skin of those who remain after sunset. Bacon's castle is more than a house. It is a repository of time, of lives lived, of secrets held within its brick and timber. Each corner tells a story, and the spirits within move through those stories, replaying moments, waiting for attention, or simply wandering through the halls they once knew. Visitors cannot capture them, cannot interact, but they can feel them, sense their presence, and hear their quiet echoes in the dark. Despite the eerie encounters, the castle draws many. Its history is rich, from colonial beginnings to stories of rebellion and strife. Yet it is the unseen residents who leave the most lasting impression. Those who enter often speak of the house itself, its energy, its quiet insistence that it remembers, that it watches, that it moves in ways the living cannot fully comprehend. Bacona's castle is alive with memory. Its shadows walk. Its whispers speak. And its cold touches remind visitors that history is not only recorded in books or preserved in artifacts. Here, history lives, breathes, and lingers. It is a place where the past meets the present in subtle, haunting ways. Where each visitor becomes aware of the layers of life and death embedded in the bricks. In the staircases, in the empty rooms. It is a place where the past meets the present. Each visitor becomes aware of the layers of life and death. Embedded in the bricks, in the staircases, in the empty rooms. Those who leave the castle after dark carry with them the sensation of being watched. Of having brushed against a presence older than themselves. The whispers, the shadows, the cold touches linger in memory. A reminder that Bacona's castle is more than a building. It is a home for the restless, a keeper of echoes. And a place where the past remains vividly alive. Montpelier, nestled in the rolling hills of Orange, Virginia, is a place steeped in history. Once the home of James Madison, the fourth President of the United States, it stands as a monument to the early days of the nation. Its halls and gardens echo with the weight of history, but beneath the surface, many visitors have reported experiences that suggest the mansion is alive in a way that history alone cannot explain. Walking through the front doors, the air feels heavy with time. The polished wood of the floors creaks with each step, as though responding to the presence of those who traverse them. Guests have reported glimpses of shadowy figures moving along the corridors, dressed in attire reminiscent of the early 19th century. These figures do not approach or interact, but their presence is unmistakable, fleeting, and hauntingly real. One of the most common experiences occurs in the music room. Though the pianos have long been silent or removed, visitors often hear the soft strains of music. Notes rising and falling as though someone sits at the keys. The melody is never the same. Yet it carries the unmistakable air of a practiced hand. Echoing through the mansion with an otherworldly clarity. Those who pause to listen describe the sensation as a mixture of melancholy and awe. As if the building itself is speaking through the music. In the servant quarters, the sense of lingering presence is especially strong. Shadowy forms have been seen moving quickly between rooms, their outlines blurred and indistinct, yet their shapes unmistakably human. These figures seem to carry out tasks long forgotten, as though they are tending to the house in a routine preserved beyond death. Visitors have reported feeling cold air brushing against their shoulders or the light touch of a hand where no one stands. The sensation is never threatening, but it is profoundly eerie, a reminder that Montpelier holds memories far beyond its historical significance. The gardens, too, hold their secrets. At dusk, when the sunlight fades into amber, some guests have reported seeing figures walking along the paths, pausing to glance at the house before fading into the landscape. The shapes are often indistinct, the outlines of people in period clothing, but they are enough to cause a shiver. Whispers sometimes drift on the wind, soft voices speaking names or offering a greeting. Many who experience these phenomena describe a heightened sense of awareness. Sounds are sharper, shadows deeper, and the stillness of the house becomes almost tangible. Some have reported feeling a presence guiding them from room to room, as if unseen hosts wish to share their world. Others speak of cold spots in areas where the temperature remains normal elsewhere, or of lights flickering with no explanation. Montpelier's spirits, if they can be called that, do not appear malicious. They move with purpose and grace, carrying the weight of their lives and duties into the present. Guests describe the sensation as walking among echoes, seeing glimpses of people who once lived and worked in the house, continuing routines frozen in time. The effect is both fascinating and unsettling, blending the grandeur of history with the mystery of the unseen. Some visitors report hearing conversations in empty rooms, the cadence and tone suggesting everyday discussion. Yet the words cannot be made out. Footsteps, soft and deliberate, can be heard in the halls, moving in patterns that suggest a daily routine preserved beyond the mortal plane. Chairs may rock gently on their own, and doors are occasionally found ajar or closed when previously secure, hinting at an intelligence behind these subtle movements. The mansion itself seems to react to human presence. Shadows lengthen and shift in unusual ways, and the atmosphere thickens with the weight of unseen eyes. Even in broad daylight, there is a sensation of being observed. A reminder that Montpelier is more than just a home. It is a keeper of memories, both historical and spectral. The connection between past and present is palpable, and those who linger feel the lines between the two blur. Guides and staff speak of the house with reverence, acknowledging the unusual events while maintaining respect for the historical narrative. Visitors are often encouraged to explore quietly, to be observant, and to notice details that may otherwise go unnoticed. The spirits, if they exist, seem to prefer discretion, appearing briefly and fading into the background rather than interacting directly with guests. The experience of Montpelier is one of discovery and reflection. Walking through its halls, listening to the faint music, or observing the movements of shadowy figures, offers a unique window into the past. The house, its grounds, and its long-departed inhabitants create a tapestry of history interwoven with mystery, where the ordinary and the supernatural coexist in quiet harmony. Even after leaving, many visitors carry the impression of having walked alongside the unseen. A shadow glimpsed in the corner of a room, a note of music that fades too quickly, or the lingering chill of a cold air pocket, reminds them that Montpelier holds more than furniture, books, and artifacts. It holds the echoes of lives once lived, preserved in the atmosphere of the mansion, guiding and observing in silent watchfulness. Montpelier is more than a historic site, it is a living museum of presence. Each room, corridor, and garden path holds stories beyond those written in texts. Stories that can only be experienced through observation, attention, and perhaps a willingness to believe. Guests leave with a sense of connection to the past, an awareness that history is not only something to be read but something to be felt, seen, and heard in unexpected ways. In the quiet moments, when the sun dips low and the shadows lengthen, music rises and fades. Whispers float through empty rooms, and fleeting figures continue the tasks of a life long gone. For those who are observant, respectful, and patient, A world that exists alongside our own, a world where history, memory, and mystery converge. Leaving visitors with a profound and haunting sense of Montpellier's enduring presence. Walking through Montpellier is an encounter with time itself. The grandeur of the mansion, the care of its gardens, and the subtle, mysterious manifestations all blend to create an atmosphere unlike any other. Here, history is alive not just in artifacts and architecture but in the lingering presence of those who once called this place home. It is a place where the past quietly observes the present, offering a hauntingly beautiful experience that resonates long after the visit ends. Shirley Plantation stands as one of the oldest and most storied estates in America. Its sprawling grounds, grand manor, and meticulously maintained gardens speak of centuries of history, wealth, and labor. During the day, visitors admire the architecture, the sweeping views of the James River, and the quiet elegance of the estate. But as dusk falls and shadows lengthen across the lawns, the atmosphere changes. A subtle tension creeps through the corridors, the gardens, and the balconies, leaving some guests with a sense that they are not truly alone. Those who have explored the plantation at night report fleeting glimpses of figures standing where no person should be. On the balconies overlooking the river, silhouettes appear for a moment, observing the grounds, and then vanish without a trace. In the hallways, shadows stretch and sway as though cast by figures that cannot be seen directly. Some guests have felt cold fingers brush against their hair, or the faintest pressure on their shoulders, as though someone unseen walks beside them. The gardens, with their manicured hedges and ancient trees, hold their own mysteries, calling attention to paths they were not expecting to take, carrying the impression of presence even when nothing is visible. And the scent of aged flowers sometimes mixes with something inexplicably metallic or earthy, as if the land itself carries memory. Many encounters are subtle. A guest might see a shadow cross a doorway just as they enter a room, or glimpse movement from a balcony that disappears when approached. Some describe feeling watched, a gentle but persistent gaze that follows them from room to room, heightening the awareness of every creak, whisper, and flicker of candlelight. The figures seen are rarely aggressive or threatening. They appear more as observers, or perhaps echoes of those who once lived within the plantation. Others glimpse men standing silently by windows, gazing across the river. These figures vanish as soon as one moves closer, leaving only the impression of their presence, a residual awareness that lingers long after the sighting. The plantation's history lends weight to these experiences, or instructions, and the fleeting shadows on balconies may be the eyes of those who once tended to the estate. The spirits of those who lived, and those who labored here, remain bound to the land. Some visitors have reported repeated experiences on multiple nights. A figure that appeared on the same balcony each evening, standing quietly and looking toward the river. Footsteps that traced the same path through the hallways. These recurring patterns suggest that the estate holds specific memories, replaying fragments of life as if insisting on being remembered. As if insisting on being remembered. Interactions are often personal and subtle. Guests describe feeling a gentle brush of cold air along the back of the neck, the faintest tug on clothing, or a sudden drop in temperature when moving through certain rooms. The garden whispers sometimes seem to respond to movement, as if the environment itself is aware of the observer. Flowers bloom in unexpected places, or leaves stir though there is no wind, reinforcing the sense that the plantation is alive in ways beyond the visible. The effect of these phenomena is both unsettling and fascinating. Many who visit report heightened senses, a strange mixture of calm and unease, and an acute awareness of history as a living presence. Sightings, sounds, and sensations are described in terms that suggest respect, observation, and caution, rather than fear alone. The plantation seems to encourage reflection, an acknowledgement of the lives that shaped it and the enduring presence of those who cannot fully leave. The long corridors and grand rooms create opportunities for shadows to appear and disappear. Candlelight and moonlight play across walls in unexpected ways, revealing glimpses of figures that vanish when directly observed. Visitors walking through the rooms at night describe the sensation of not being alone, as if the house itself is reminding them that every step taken is witnessed by unseen eyes. The plantation grounds, with their sweeping lawns, ancient trees, and riverfront views, add to the atmosphere. Figures are reported moving silently along garden paths, pausing beneath archways of flowering vines or ancient oaks. The whispers sometimes carry names or fragmented phrases, gentle enough to seem like memories rather than warnings. Guests often experience a mixture of awe and unease, recognizing that the plantation holds both beauty and secrets that have endured for centuries. In the great halls, portraits seem to follow movement, and doors may open or close with no visible cause. Footsteps echo across wooden floors, sometimes in the pattern of someone pacing, other times appearing suddenly and fading just as quickly. Guests report these experiences leaving a lasting impression, a sense that the plantation is alive with histories that refuse to be forgotten. The overall experience of Shirley Plantation at night is one of immersion into another time. Visitors encounter shadows, whispers, and fleeting touches that serve as reminders of the lives that shaped the estate. These phenomena blend history, memory, and presence, creating an atmosphere that is at once haunting, respectful, and mysteriously alive. Guests leave the plantation carrying stories of fleeting glimpses, whispered names, and sensations that cannot easily be explained. Shirley Plantation continues to stand as a monument to history and as a place where the past lingers, unseen but undeniably present. The figures, the whispers, and the sensations are subtle yet unmistakable, a reminder that this historic estate is home not only to the living but also to the echoes of those who came before. Whether walking the garden paths under the moon, pausing beneath the balconies, or tracing the corridors of the manor, Shirley Plantation is more than architecture and landscape. It is a living testament to history, memory, and presence. Where shadows watch, whispers carry, and unseen hands leave a mark on those who walk its grounds. Oatlands, nestled in the rolling hills of Leesburg, Virginia, stands as a testament to centuries of history. By day, the estate draws visitors to its grand mansion, manicured gardens, and sprawling grounds. Sunlight illuminates the brick FAA sectionade, and the gentle rustle of trees in the breeze adds to its serene atmosphere. But when night falls, the house takes on a different presence, one that is quieter, heavier, and filled with the echoes of the past. Those who explore the mansion after dark often report unusual activity. Doors open and close on their own, sometimes softly, sometimes with a sudden push that startles those nearby. The movement is deliberate, as if the house itself is breathing, responding to something unseen. Rooms that were empty moments ago suddenly seem to hold a presence, a suggestion that someone or something remains within their walls even when no one else is present. Alongside the shifting doors, visitors have heard voices calling out names from empty rooms. The voices are faint but unmistakable, carrying a tone of urgency or longing. They seem to drift from one end of the hallway to another, echoing softly against the high ceilings and wooden floors. Hikers of history and casual visitors alike have reported pausing in surprise, certain they heard a familiar name spoken in the quiet of the night, yet finding the rooms empty when they entered. Shadows move along the hallways, appearing and disappearing as if following an invisible rhythm. Sometimes they flit across the walls, a dark form at the edge of vision, then vanish when attention is focused directly on them. The movement is subtle, yet unmistakable, suggesting a presence that observes and navigates the mansion in ways beyond ordinary perception. These shadows do not interact physically but leave a tangible sense of being watched, a feeling that lingers long after the sight has passed. One visitor recounted walking through the mansion during a quiet evening tour. The lights were dim, and the house was silent save for the occasional creak of wood beneath her feet. As she turned into a long corridor, she noticed a shadow moving along the far wall. The figure seemed human in shape but lacked distinct features, gliding rather than walking. She called out softly, hoping to gain clarity, but the shadow dissolved into the darkness, leaving the hallway empty and still. Moments later, a door at the end of the corridor swung open by itself, then closed just as suddenly. The architecture and design of Oatlands enhanced these experiences. High ceilings, long hallways, and polished wooden floors create acoustics where sounds travel unpredictably. A whisper in one room can carry to another, while a soft creak can echo through multiple hallways, amplifying the perception of activity. Dim lighting and the natural shadows cast by candlelight or electric fixtures at night heighten the sense that movement may be more than mere trickery of the eye. The combination of sound, light, and structure makes the mansion an immersive environment for those attuned to subtle changes. Local lore and historical accounts suggest that the spirits of past residents continue to inhabit the mansion. Some say that former family members linger, watching over the house and the grounds they once cared for. Others believe that staff who worked there long ago remain tethered to the building, moving quietly through the rooms and corridors where they spent so much of their lives. Visitors often describe a sensation of history pressing close, of footsteps and whispers reminding them that the mansion has long memories and a presence that endures. The experiences at Oatlands are not threatening, but are profoundly affecting. Observers report a mixture of curiosity and awe, heightened awareness, and a deep respect for the weight of history. Every sound, every shift of shadow, and every movement of a door contributes to an atmosphere where the line between past and present feels thin. The mansion becomes a place where visitors are acutely aware that they are not alone, where history is not merely remembered but actively experienced. Even when the lights are bright and the house appears empty, the sense of presence remains. Guests often leave with the memory of a hallway that seemed longer than it should have been, a soft voice that called their name, or a shadow that lingered just out of reach. These subtle traces create a lasting impression, a connection between the living and the past, and a sense that Oatlands is alive with its own quiet energy. Oatlands endures as more than a historic estate. It is a living repository of memory, echoing with the footsteps, voices, and presence of those who walked its halls long before. Doors continue to move, shadows continue to flit along walls, and whispers carry through empty rooms, offering a reminder that the mansion is not merely a structure of brick and wood, but a space where history, memory, and spirit converge. As night deepens over Leesburg, doors open and close softly. Shadows drift along hallways, and the faint murmur of voices can still be heard, calling out to those who listen. Visitors may feel the weight of unseen eyes, the presence of long-gone inhabitants, and the enduring spirit of a mansion that continues to live in its history, watching and moving through the night with quiet patience and eternal presence. The Mary Washington House in Fredericksburg stands as a serene reminder of colonial Virginia, its whitewashed walls and tidy gardens preserving the memory of a life lived centuries ago. Yet within its quiet elegance, something lingers, a presence felt by visitors who walk its halls after the sunlight fades. Those who explore the house speak of fleeting figures, soft cries, and whispers that seem to echo from the very walls. Guests often report seeing the figure of Mary Washington herself, gliding silently from room to room. Her form appears in the parlor, near the hearth where countless conversations once took place. She moves with a gentle grace, pausing to survey the rooms she knew intimately. Sometimes she is seen in the bedrooms, standing beside the bed or at the window, as though watching over the house even now. The air within the Mary Washington House is different from the outside world. It carries a weight, a subtle pressure that presses lightly against the shoulders of those who enter. The scent of old wood mingles with faint traces of perfume, perhaps a lingering trace of the lady herself. Visitors have described feeling watched, a calm but insistent presence that seems to accompany them as they move from one room to another. Whispers are common here, soft and indistinct, like voices carried from another time. They rise in the parlor, falling to a hush as visitors approach. Some claim the voices are conversations from long ago, hushed words exchanged in the quiet moments of family life. Others hear gentle sighs, a sound that carries both sorrow and longing, as if the house itself remembers the weight of its history. The parlor is often the first place guests notice activity. Candles flicker even in the absence of drafts. And shadows move across the walls, stretching unnaturally. Before retreating when observed. Some visitors have felt a sudden chill. A cold touch on their arm or shoulder, brief and light but unmistakable. The experience is not threatening, but it leaves a lasting impression. A sense that the house is more than brick and timber. Upstairs, the bedrooms carry a quieter, more intimate presence. Visitors report the sensation of someone standing just beyond their vision. A gentle weight beside the bed, or the brush of unseen fabric. Occasionally, the soft cries of a woman can be heard. Drifting through the hallway as if searching for something or something lost to time. Those who pause and listen often find the sounds vanish as quickly as they appear, leaving only a lingering chill. Footsteps are another frequent occurrence. They echo softly on the wooden floors, slow and deliberate, as if pacing through memories long past. At times, the footsteps are accompanied by the faint creak of furniture or the soft brushing of a gown against the floor. Visitors often find themselves pausing, straining to see who might be present, only to find the house empty, the sounds fading into silence. Some report seeing fleeting glimpses of a figure moving through windows or down hallways, her form translucent and quiet. A fleeting glance catches her at the far end of a room. And when attention returns, she has vanished, leaving only the sense of her lingering gaze. The Mary Washington house preserves history in ways both tangible and unseen. The furniture, the portraits, and the wooden floors tell stories of colonial life. But the presence within the walls adds another layer, a connection to the past that transcends objects. Visitors sense that this house remembers, that it carries echoes of the family who lived here, particularly the woman who guided and nurtured George Washington during his youth. Many who leave the house carry a subtle unease mixed with reverence. The experiences are brief, moments that flicker in memory like the candlelight in the parlor. Yet the impression is lasting, a house alive with history, watching, and remembering. Some return, drawn by curiosity or a desire to witness the presence once more, finding comfort in the familiarity of the echoes and the soft traces of Mary Washington herself. Even in the quiet daylight, the house feels alive. There is an energy, a presence that cannot be fully seen but can be felt in every step along the wooden floors and in the hush of each room. Visitors leave with a sense of connection to the past, to the life of a woman whose care and guidance shaped a future president, yet whose own life remains imprinted upon the house she called home. The Mary Washington house is a place where history walks alongside the present. Where the past reaches out in whispers, soft steps, and fleeting figures. That reminds visitors that time is not confined to dates or events, but lives on in memory, in the spaces we inhabit, and in the unseen echoes that remain long after the living have departed. Each visit becomes a personal encounter with history, a meeting with the unseen caretaker of the house. Guests sense her presence, feel the gentle weight of memory pressing lightly against their shoulders, and hear the whispers of lives once lived. In the stillness of the house, the past and present merge, and Mary Washington herself seems to glide among the walls, quietly watching over her home and the stories it continues to tell. The experience is subtle but undeniable. Shadows shift in corners. Faint sounds linger in empty rooms. And the chill of a presence moves across the skin. Those who have walked the halls understand that the house is not merely a relic of the past. but a living repository of memory. Shaped and maintained by the woman whose spirit remains, tending to her home long after her life has ended. In the Mary Washington House, Fredericksburg, history is not only observed but felt. It is alive in whispers, steps, and fleeting glimpses. Visitors leave with an awareness that the house remembers. And that within its walls, the figure of George Washington's mother continues to move. Her presence gentle but persistent, a guardian of memory. And a living echo of the past. Mount Vernon, perched gracefully along the banks of the Potomac River in Fairfax County, Virginia, is not only a testament to the life and legacy of George Washington, but also a place where history seems to linger in ways that are both tangible and mysterious. Visitors walking the expansive grounds often feel as though the past is observing them, a presence woven into the very soil, the trees, and the weathered stone paths of the estate. A presence woven into the very soil, the trees, and the weathered stone paths of the estate. The Estetia's gardens, meticulously maintained yet aged with time, hold a quiet tension as the wind moves through rows of flowering plants. Some guests have reported seeing figures in the distance, walking purposefully along the paths, their forms vague and fleeting. Servants from centuries past, they appear in period attire, completing tasks that time has long since rendered obsolete. These figures vanish when approached, leaving only the sense that they were never truly there, and yet their presence is undeniable. Inside the mansion, the rooms carry the echoes of countless lives. Walking through the long halls, one may feel the temperature drop suddenly, or notice the faintest whisper of movement behind a closed door. Guests often mention glimpsing apparitions through the tall windows, pale shapes that vanish when the sun catches the glass or when a person turns to focus directly on them. It is a subtle presence, never overtly threatening, but persistent, but profoundly stirring. The dining room, with its polished wooden table and antique chairs, has been the site of some of the most compelling reports. Guests recount hearing the faint rustle of garments, or soft murmurs as if the room were preparing for a meal long past. These ephemeral experiences suggest a continuity, a lingering energy that binds the present with the past in a seamless, haunting connection. The grounds themselves tell stories beyond the gaze of the casual visitor. Shadows move between the trees at dusk, sometimes pausing near the Rivera's edge. Walkers have reported hearing soft footsteps behind them on gravel paths. But when they turn, no one is there. The fog that drifts off the river can create shapes, forms that feel almost human. Moving silently, observing, and then dissolving into the morning light. The servants' quarters reveal a different kind of presence. Some visitors have described the sensation of being watched, of feeling a hand brush lightly against their arm when no one is near. These experiences are subtle yet profound, creating a tension between the historical grandeur of Mount Vernon and the invisible lives that seem to inhabit it still. The echoes of labor, the quiet diligence of those who maintained the estate centuries ago, appear to remain woven into the very walls, responding to the footsteps of modern guests. Even the family quarters are not exempt. Guests have reported seeing fleeting shadows crossing the rooms, or glimpses of figures through doorways. The air sometimes feels charged, heavier with an almost imperceptible energy. Lights may flicker in the late afternoon sun, creating patterns that seem to mimic human motion. And objects occasionally shift slightly, as if moved by an unseen hand. These moments create an atmosphere where the boundary between history and the present becomes blurred, leaving visitors with a sense of walking through both time and memory. Many have described the feeling of being followed along the estate paths. Looking back, they see a figure at a distance, framed by the foliage or standing near the riverbank. The shape does not advance or retreat, merely exists in parallel, an observer from another time. When approached, the figure fades like mist, leaving only the rustling of leaves or the distant murmur of the river as evidence that something was ever there. Mount Vernon's riverfront adds another layer of mystery. Visitors often pause along the banks to admire the view, only to sense movement in the shadows across the water. Figures have been seen walking along the shoreline, sometimes indistinct, sometimes more defined, and always vanishing when directly focused upon. The river itself seems to carry these echoes, reflecting more than sunlight and sky, but a lingering presence that watches, waits, and quietly observes. The estate is alive in the memories it holds. Each room, each corridor, each garden path resonates with the presence of those who once walked there. Guests frequently mention a heightened awareness, an almost tangible sense of the past brushing against the present. Even in the brightness of day, the invisible inhabitants seem to manifest in small ways the faint sounds of movement, the shifting of light and shadow, the subtle impression of being watched. Guides and staff recount stories passed down through generations. They speak of subtle signs, a door closing on its own, a chair moving slightly, or the sensation of being accompanied by someone unseen. These phenomena are never threatening, but they are persistent, inviting visitors to consider that Mount Vernon is more than a house or a museum. It is a place where history inhabits every stone, every tree, every beam, and where those who came before remain connected to the present in ways that are quiet, respectful, and hauntingly profound. Visitors leave Mount Vernon with a sense of having stepped into a living history, one that exists not only in the stories of George Washington and his family but also in the invisible footsteps of those who maintained the estate, cared for its grounds, and lived within its walls. The mansion, the gardens, and the river all hold echoes of the past, blending seamlessly with the present, offering an experience that is at once educational, emotional, and mysteriously alive. Walking the paths, exploring the halls, or pausing at the Rivera's edge, one cannot help but feel the weight of time. Mount Vernon is a place where the grandeur of history meets the subtle, persistent presence of those who never left. Guests may see shadows, hear faint footsteps, or catch the soft rustle of movement in empty rooms. These are not mere tricks of the imagination, they are reminders that the estate is a living witness to centuries of life, labor, and memory. The estate is a living witness to centuries of life, labor, and memory. Mount Vernon remains a space where the past quietly observes the present. Every shadow, every whisper, every flicker of movement suggests a continuity, a bridge between eras, where the stories of servants, visitors, and the Washington family converge. To walk these grounds is to feel a connection to history that is tactile, immediate, and, at times, eerily alive. Visitors depart with a sense that they have not just toured a historic estate, but have briefly stepped into a world where the echoes of those long gone continue to watch, to move, and to inhabit the landscape in subtle yet unmistakable ways. Berkeley Plantation rises along the James River, its long history etched into every brick, board, and blade of grass. By day, the estate is stately and serene, its sprawling lawns and towering trees inviting admiration and reflection. Visitors marvel at the architecture, the gardens, and the sweeping river views, yet as dusk settles and shadows stretch across the grounds, the plantation seems to shift. A subtle unease permeates the air, as though the weight of centuries of joy, sorrow, and loss presses softly against the present. Guests who wander near the riverbank report glimpses of ghostly figures, moving silently along the shoreline. Sometimes these silhouettes appear to watch, pausing to look toward the water before fading into the evening mist. The figures are fleeting, often seen out of the corner of the eye, leaving a lingering impression that someone is observing even when the path is empty. Some visitors feel a sudden brush of air against their skin or the faint sensation of being touched, yet when they turn, no one is there. Inside the main house, the experiences grow more intimate and inexplicable. Footsteps echo along hallways where no one walks, and doors open or close without cause. Guests have reported feeling invisible hands grazing their shoulders or pulling gently at their clothing as they move from room to room. The rooms themselves seem alive with presence. The soft flicker of candlelight or the sway of curtains hinting at movement that cannot be accounted for. Visitors often speak of whispers, faint and fragmented, that drift through the halls and gardens. Some describe hearing their names called softly, carried on the breeze, though no one is nearby. The voices are neither threatening nor aggressive, they feel like echoes of the past, residual memories pressed into the air, waiting to be noticed. The whispers mingle with the natural sounds of the river, rustling leaves, and distant bird calls, blending the ordinary with the uncanny. The estate's gardens are another locus of subtle phenomena. Flowers bloom in unexpected patterns, and the shadows of ancient trees shift in ways that seem deliberate. Guests have seen movement among the hedges and along the stone pathways, figures that vanish when approached. Some feel a persistent presence at their side, as if walking with a companion from another era. Even the stillness of night carries a weight here, a sense that the land itself remembers the lives that have passed across it. Recurring experiences are often reported in the same locations. Guests notice figures lingering along the same stretch of riverbank or in the same hall of the main house. Some describe seeing children playing in the garden, their forms faint and translucent, only to disappear when directly observed. These patterns suggest that the plantation holds specific memories, moments replaying in the quiet of night, fragments of the lives that shaped the estate over centuries. The mansion itself seems to respond to visitors. Chandeliers sway gently without breeze, and floors creak beneath invisible footsteps. Guests often sense a watchful presence, a quiet acknowledgement of their passage. Portraits of past inhabitants sometimes appear to follow movement across rooms, their eyes catching the dim light in ways that suggest attention. The effect is subtle but unmistakable, creating a sensation that the house is alive with history, memory, and watchful spirits. Many of the figures seen are dressed in period clothing, appearing as echoes from another time. Gentlemen stand at windows gazing across the river. Women in flowing dresses move quietly along hallways. And children appear to play briefly in sunlit gardens. Each figure vanishes when approached, leaving only the impression of presence and the lingering sense of lives once lived. The plantation becomes a theater of history, where the past steps briefly into the present, observed but untouchable. Even the riverbank holds its mysteries. Guests describe the water reflecting figures that do not exist on the shore. Sounds of distant footsteps or the faintest laughter drift across the water. Visitors often pause, caught between fascination and unease, feeling that the land, the house, and the water are entwined with memories that will not fade. The overall experience at Berkeley Plantation is both haunting and mesmerizing. Visitors report heightened senses, noticing details in the architecture, gardens, and river that seem enhanced by the presence of unseen observers. The shadows, whispers, and fleeting touches create a tapestry of history made tangible, a sense that the estate is alive with echoes of the past. As guests leave the plantation, they often carry a lingering awareness, an impression that something unseen has accompanied them. The ghostly figures, whispers, and sensations are subtle yet persistent, a reminder that Berkeley Plantation is more than a historical site. It is a place where the past endures, and the memories of those who lived and worked here remain present. Walking the grounds at night, through the hallways, along the gardens, and beside the river. Through the hallways, along the gardens, and beside the river. And beside the river. Where history, memory, and the unseen converge. Where history, memory, and the unseen converge. Each shadow, each whisper, each unexpected touch tells a story, binding the past and present together in a quiet, haunting harmony that remains long after the visitors have gone. A quiet, haunting harmony. Carlisle House stands proudly in the heart of Alexandria, Virginia, a grand colonial mansion that has witnessed centuries of history. By day, visitors explore its stately rooms, admire the period furnishings, and stroll through the carefully maintained gardens. The sunlight illuminates the brick exterior, and the soft sounds of the city beyond the walls provide a gentle contrast to the quiet dignity of the estate. But as evening falls and darkness settles over the house, the atmosphere changes. Shadows lengthen, the air feels heavier, and the presence of the past becomes tangible. Visitors who explore Carlisle House after hours often report hearing whispers and footsteps echoing through the hallways. The sounds are subtle at first, almost imperceptible, but they grow in clarity as one moves deeper into the mansion. Footsteps traverse the wooden floors above and below, coming from rooms that are empty. Whispers drift through the corridors, indistinct but undeniably human in tone, carrying a sense of urgency or quiet conversation from a long-forgotten time. The effect is both haunting and immersive, drawing the listener into a space that feels suspended between past and present. Shadows appear along the staircases and in the old offices, flitting across walls and floors as though moving with purpose. Observers report that these shadows often vanish when approached directly, leaving only the empty hall in their place. They do not interact physically, yet their presence is deeply felt. The movement is deliberate and measured, creating an impression of unseen inhabitants navigating the mansion as they did centuries ago. The interplay of light and shadow in the candlelit rooms amplifies the effect, lending the house a sense of life that is both spectral and vivid. Some visitors claim to have seen figures in colonial attire moving silently through the halls. These apparitions are often described as dressed in period clothing, their outlines faint yet detailed enough to suggest the style and elegance of the 18th century. They glide from room to room, pausing momentarily as if attending to tasks that no longer require completion. They do not acknowledge observers directly, yet there is a palpable awareness in the air. A sense that the mansion remembers its past residents and continues to house their echoes. One visitor recounted an evening tour when the sun had fully set and the house was bathed in the soft glow of lanterns. As they moved through the main hall, faint footsteps could be heard on the staircase above. They paused, straining to hear. And a shadow passed across the wall near the old office. Moments later, a figure in colonial dress emerged from the darkness at the far end of the hallway, moving silently toward the parlor, before disappearing into the shadows. The visitor described a feeling of awe and unease, as though they had glimpsed history in motion, a connection to the lives and routines of those who had walked the mansion long before. The architecture of Carlisle House enhances these experiences. High ceilings, long corridors, and polished wooden floors create acoustics where sound travels in unexpected ways. A whisper in one room can carry to another, and a creaking floorboard echoes through multiple hallways, creating the impression of movement where none is visible. Candlelight or soft lantern light casts elongated shadows that shift with the flicker of the flame, making ordinary corners and doorways appear animated. These elements combine to create a space where perception and reality blur, making it possible to feel the presence of the past in a tangible way. Local stories and historical accounts suggest that the figures and sounds may be the lingering presence of the Carlisle family, their staff, or visitors from the colonial era. Some believe these echoes are a form of residual memory, replaying moments from centuries ago for those who are attentive and open to the experience. Others suggest that the house itself is sentient, its walls and floors retaining the energy of those who lived and worked within it, and expressing that energy in subtle and haunting ways for those who enter after dark. Visitors often describe the experience as simultaneously unsettling and awe-inspiring. The figures and sounds do not pose a threat, yet the awareness of their presence heightens every sense. Observers notice the smallest details of the texture of the walls, the scent of old wood, the flicker of light on a polished floor as though the mansion is encouraging them to perceive it fully. Each creak, each shadow, and each whisper contributes to a feeling that the house is alive with memory, a space where history continues to move and breathe. Even when the figures and whispers are absent, Carlisle House retains a sense of attentive presence. Visitors often report lingering feelings of being observed, subtle shifts in temperature, and a heightened sense of space. The echoes of footsteps, the shadows, and the faint voices remind all who enter that history is not just recorded in documents or preserved in furniture, but also inhabits the very spaces where it occurred. As night deepens over Alexandria, Carlisle House exudes an aura of quiet mystery. Footsteps continue to echo softly in empty halls, whispers drift from rooms long untouched. And shadows glide along staircases and offices. Figures in colonial attire move silently through the mansion, ever present yet elusive, maintaining their routines from centuries past. The house stands as a bridge between past and present, a living reminder that the stories of those who walked its halls continue to inhabit the space. Waiting for those who are willing to see, hear, and feel the history that endures within its walls. Agecroft Hall stands as a grand testament to Tudor architecture, its steep gables and intricate brickwork echoing centuries of history. Nestled along the James River in Richmond, the mansion has long been admired for its beauty, yet beyond its architectural splendor, the estate holds secrets that linger in shadows and whisper through empty halls. Visitors often speak of a sense of presence, an awareness that they are not alone as they move through the gardens or corridors. In the formal gardens, figures have been seen walking silently among the flower beds. Some appear in period attire, their forms fleeting and indistinct, vanishing when approached. The stillness of the air is occasionally broken by the soft rustle of movement, as if someone unseen treads lightly on the manicured paths. Those who linger often feel the chill of sudden cold spots, a stark contrast to the warmth of the sun or the cool evening air. Inside the mansion, the hallways are filled with a quiet tension. Doors have been reported opening and closing on their own, slow and deliberate, as though guided by invisible hands. Shadows shift at the edges of vision, elongated and dark against the patterned wallpaper and polished wood floors. Footsteps echo in rooms long emptied of human presence, soft at first, then fading, leaving only the sound of one's own heartbeat in response. Visitors have described seeing figures in the drawing rooms, standing near fireplaces or gliding along corridors. Some figures are fully formed, yet insubstantial, their faces indistinct but their presence undeniable. Others appear as fleeting glimpses, caught in the corner of an eye, only to disappear when attention is focused. The effect is subtle but persistent, creating a sense that the mansion itself is alive, observing, and moving. Cold spots are frequent throughout Agecroft Hall. They appear without warning. Sudden drops in temperature that cause breath to fog and skin to prick with awareness. Some report the sensation of being brushed by unseen fabric or the gentle pressure of a presence beside them. These experiences are not frightening in a traditional sense, but they are deeply disorienting. A reminder that the house retains echoes of the past that continue to interact with the present. The library is another area of notable activity. Visitors report books shifting slightly on the shelves, as though guided by invisible hands. The faint scent of old paper and polished wood mingles with a chill that cannot be attributed to any open window or draft. Some have reported hearing the soft scratch of quills or the turning of pages, faint sounds that carry across the room yet have no visible source. The dining room holds its own mysteries. Chairs have been found slightly out of place. Glass is left in the center of the table, when no one has entered. At times, shadows seem to gather near the sideboard, hovering for a moment before fading into the corners of the room. Some visitors have felt a presence pass behind them, causing a shiver or a sudden awareness of being observed. The gardens and grounds of Agecroft Hall are equally alive with reported phenomena. Figures in period dress appear walking along the pathways or near the riverbank. The atmosphere shifts as one approaches, the air becomes heavier, more charged, and the sense of being watched intensifies. Birds may take flight unexpectedly, or leaves may rustle as if stirred by an unseen hand. The effect is subtle, almost imperceptible, yet undeniably present to those attuned to the mansion's energy. At night, the mansion transforms further. The absence of sunlight enhances shadows and amplifies the sense of movement within the halls. Figures are seen in windows, standing just beyond the glass, or walking across the gardens under the glow of moonlight. The air is often thick with silence, punctuated only by faint, unexplained sounds that echo across the rooms and grounds. Visitors speak of a feeling that the past is not entirely past, that those who once lived, walked, and worked here are still part of the mansione's ongoing story. The architecture itself seems to interact with these presences. Narrow corridors, high ceilings, and the intricate timberwork create spaces where shadows can linger and sounds can carry. The mansione's age, its long history of occupants and events, may have imbued it with a memory, a persistence of those who once called it home. Visitors often describe a feeling of stepping back in time, not merely through the aesthetics of the house, but through the presence that seems to inhabit it still. Some experiences are fleeting and visual. Others are sensory, a cold touch, a whisper, or the sense of a figure passing nearby. Many visitors leave with a heightened awareness, a respect for the history and the energy that pervades the space. Agecroft Hall, while admired for its beauty and history, remains a living connection to the past, where architecture, memory, and the unexplained converge. Walking through Agecroft Hall, visitors cannot help but feel a continuity of life and presence that transcends time. Shadows in the corners, figures in the gardens. The chill of sudden cold. Doors moving as if guided by unseen hands. The mansion is a repository of memory, an echo of lives once lived, continuing to exist alongside the present. Whether in the gardens, the halls, or the library, Agecroft Hall reminds all who enter that history is alive. Its ghostly figures, cold spots, and moving doors are subtle but persistent reminders that the past leaves traces. That some presences endure, and that this Tudor mansion holds stories not just in its bricks and timbers, but in the very air that fills its spaces. Visitors depart with a sense of awe, carrying with them the awareness that Agecroft Hall is a living connection to those who came before. The shadows and whispers, the glimpses and chills, are not meant to frighten, but to remind that in certain places, history lingers, alive and watching. A testament to the lives that shaped the mansion and the stories that remain in its halls. Gunston Hall, situated along the banks of the Potomac River in Mason Neck, Virginia, is a place where the echoes of history are deeply felt. The home of George Mason, one of the most influential figures in the founding of the United States, is not only a monument to the past but also a space where the presence of those who lived and worked there continues to linger. Visitors to the estate often speak of an unusual awareness as soon as they step onto the grounds. The gardens, meticulously maintained yet alive with the whispers of time, hold an air of quiet reverence. Walkways lined with century-old trees sway gently in the breeze. And in the rustle of leaves, some report hearing the faintest echo of movement that cannot be explained. Figures in period clothing have been glimpsed along these paths, shadows that vanish when approached, as if reluctant to be seen by modern eyes. Inside the mansion, the atmosphere grows more pronounced. The sound of papers rustling in empty study rooms is one of the most commonly reported phenomena. Visitors describe hearing footsteps along polished floors when no one is present, a soft shuffle that moves from room to room, fading before they can be traced. Some say the steps are deliberate, pacing with purpose as if the home itself is continuing its daily rhythm long after its last occupant has left. The main hall of Gunston Hall carries a weight that is almost palpable. Guests have sensed sudden shifts in temperature, brief chills that pass like whispers along their spines. These sensations are subtle yet undeniable, a reminder that the mansion is not merely a structure of wood and stone but a vessel of history that retains the memory of those who walked its halls. Occasionally, visitors report glimpses of figures peering from windows, pale shapes that retreat instantly when met with direct attention, leaving only the quiet hum of the river in their wake. Many reports center on the study and library areas of the house. Here, the rustling of papers is more distinct, often accompanied by the faint creak of chair legs moving across the floor. It is as if the room is replaying moments of work and thought from centuries past. Some have said that the sense of being watched is strongest in these rooms, a presence that seems patient, observing quietly, never intrusive, yet unmistakably real. The servants' quarters and back rooms offer a different kind of encounter. Visitors often describe an awareness of movement just out of the corner of their eyes. Shadows flit between doorways, and sometimes the soft tap of a foot echoes down narrow corridors. It is easy to imagine the lives of those who maintain the house, tending to its daily needs, their presence lingering long after the sounds of labor ceased. Even the grounds near the river carry their own energy. Walkers report a sensation of being followed, a quiet vigilance in the rustling of reeds and the sway of low-hanging branches. At times, figures appear near the shoreline, framed by the mist rising off the water. These apparitions do not advance or retreat but remain just at the edge of perception, observing, as if the land itself is a keeper of memories too weighty to be forgotten. The estate is also known for subtle interactions that defy explanation. Guests have experienced doors opening slowly, small objects shifting slightly, and the brief impression of a presence brushing past them when no one is nearby. These occurrences are fleeting, never threatening, yet they leave a profound impression. The house seems to hum with the remnants of daily life, preserving not only the physical history of its walls but also the spirit of those who inhabited them. In some rooms, especially those associated with Mason himself, visitors report more concentrated experiences. Shadows appear to move with deliberate grace. And the faintest sounds as soft murmurs, the shuffling of papyrus create an impression of continuity. As though the thoughts and activities of the past are replaying quietly for those who enter. These phenomena blend seamlessly with the physical environment, reinforcing the idea that Gunston Hall is a living testament to time itself. The gardens and estate paths amplify this presence. Evening visitors have described walking along paths where the air seems charged, and the long shadows of trees cast forms that shift and change with the setting sun. Figures in colonial dress have been glimpsed, pausing to observe, then vanishing as though pulled back into another era. The sense of history is almost tangible, a living connection that bridges centuries. Guests often leave the house with a heightened awareness of their surroundings. The combination of the mansione's history, the sounds of unseen movement, and the occasional appearance of ghostly figures creates an experience that feels deeply intimate. The past at Gunston Hall is not static, it interacts subtly with the present, a reminder that history is a presence, not just a record. Every room, hallway, and garden seems to preserve the memory of those who lived and worked at Gunston Hall. The experience of walking through its spaces is one of immersion, where the boundaries between past and present blur. Visitors sense the echoes of life long gone, the quiet diligence of servants, and the contemplative moments of George Mason himself. Gunston Hall remains a place where history is palpable, where shadowy figures, rustling papers, and echoing footsteps remind us that the lives of the past are never truly gone. Where the lives of the past are never truly gone. The estate continues to hold the stories of its inhabitants, offering a rare glimpse into a world where the echoes of the past are not only heard but felt, experienced in the presence of the living. Visitors depart with the knowledge that Gunston Hall is more than a preserved house. It is a witness to centuries of life, memory, and spirit. Its ghostly residents, whether glimpsed fleetingly or sensed through subtle movement and sound, maintain a quiet presence that bridges the centuries. Walking its halls, wandering its gardens, or pausing at the riverbank, one cannot help but feel that the home continues to breathe with the energy of those who once called it their own. Gunston Hall is not merely a monument to history, it is a living testament, a space where the past quietly observes. A space where the past quietly observes, interacts, and endures, leaving an indelible impression on all who enter. The Wilton House Museum in Richmond stands as a testament to centuries of history and refinement. Its stately architecture and meticulously preserved interiors draw visitors who come to admire its grandeur. Yet as daylight fades, the house seems to take on a life of its own. Shadows lengthen along the polished floors, and a sense of presence hangs quietly in the air, subtle but unmistakable. Some guests report seeing figures of women in long, flowing dresses, moving gracefully through the halls. They appear briefly, often at the periphery of vision, and vanish when approached. These figures are not threatening, but their presence evokes a feeling of being watched, of history lingering in the spaces that were once lived in. The air grows cool and still, carrying the faintest scent of flowers or the faint rustle of fabric as if a bygone era is walking beside the living. Whispers echo softly through the corridors, particularly near the grand staircase. The voices are indistinct, fragments of speech carried on air that seems to respond to movement. Some visitors hear their names spoken or brief phrases that vanish as soon as they focus. The whispers are gentle yet insistent, threading through the quiet of the house and mingling with the natural creaks and groans of wood, creating a sensation that the building itself is alive with memory. Shadows flicker against the candlelight, twisting and moving along walls and ceilings, though no one is visible. Sometimes, a candle flares briefly as if acknowledging a presence, then returns to its steady glow. Guests describe the sensation of being accompanied, a quiet awareness that someone or something follows their movements. Through rooms filled with portraits, furniture, and relics of the past. The effect is subtle, a blending of history and imagination, yet undeniable. Visitors often notice these phenomena in specific locations. The grand staircase, with its sweeping banister and polished steps, is particularly active. Shadows seem to stretch across the steps, and whispers converge here, as though the spirits prefer this central space. Guests have felt a gentle brush on their arm or shoulder while ascending or descending, yet when they turn, the hall is empty. The experience is fleeting but leaves a lasting impression, a connection to the lives once lived within these walls. The drawing rooms and parlors are also filled with unexplained activity. Curtains sway slightly when no breeze is present. And the soft thump of footsteps sometimes echoes across polished floors. Guests have reported seeing fleeting figures glance from windows, or step silently behind doorways. These moments are often accompanied by a distinct chill, as if the temperature itself responds to the presence of the unseen. The combination of visual, auditory, and tactile sensations immerses visitors in a hauntingly vivid experience. The figures themselves often appear in period clothing, evoking the life and culture of Richmond in centuries past. Women in long dresses glide across parlors and hallways, while men in formal attire occasionally emerge in fleeting glimpses along corridors. Men in formal attire emerge in fleeting glimpses along corridors. The spectral inhabitants move with purpose, as if performing daily routines of another era. Spectral inhabitants move with purpose, as if performing daily routines of another era, yet they vanish when approached, leaving only the memory of movement and a sense of continuity between past and present. Even the exterior of the house seems touched by these presences. Windows reflect figures that do not exist in the gardens. And some visitors report feeling watched while standing on the porch or walking the perimeter. The interplay between interior and exterior experiences creates an impression that the entire property is imbued with history, with the energy of those who once lived and labored here remaining subtly intertwined with the present. Repeated experiences suggest patterns in the activity. Certain rooms, staircases, and hallways are more likely to reveal shadows, whispers, or figures. Guests often find themselves drawn to these spaces, noticing details in the architecture, furniture, and copyright that appear heightened in the presence of unseen observers. The house becomes a bridge between time periods, where echoes of past lives play out alongside the living, silently inviting observation and reflection. The Wilton House Museum offers visitors an experience that blends history with the unexplainable. Footsteps, whispers, shadows, and fleeting figures combine to create a tapestry of subtle supernatural occurrences that are both engaging and thought-provoking. The house tells a story not only through its architecture and artifacts but also through the lingering presence of spirits who continue to inhabit its halls. As guests leave the house, they often carry a sense of lingering awareness. Shadows seem to follow them briefly into the sunlight. And the memory of whispers, touches, and fleeting figures remains vivid. The Wilton House Museum stands not only as a historical landmark, but also as a place where the past feels tangibly present. A living connection between centuries of human life and the spectral echoes that endure quietly, inviting those who enter to sense the history that never truly left. Walking through the corridors, ascending the staircase, or pausing in the drawing rooms, visitors encounter a world where time blurs. The past and present merge seamlessly in subtle movements and gentle sounds. The Wilton House Museum offers a rare glimpse into the way history, memory, and the unseen can coexist, creating an atmosphere that is as mysterious as it is captivating. Each visitor experiences something unique, whether it is a whisper, a shadow, or a figure glimpsed in candlelight. These moments of encounter encourage reflection on the lives that shaped the house and the lingering energy that remains. The Wilton House Museum stands as a testament to enduring presence, a place where the whispers of the past continue to inhabit the present. Quietly observing, gently interacting, and forever entwined with the living world. Belmont Plantation sits quietly in the rolling hills of Loudoun County, Virginia, a historic estate whose elegant FAA section ade. Visitors stroll across the manicured grounds, admiring the architecture, the sprawling lawns, and the surrounding forests that stretch toward the horizon. The sun reflects off the windows, and the gentle rustle of leaves adds a sense of calm to the expansive property. But as dusk falls and shadows deepen, the plantation takes on a different presence, a layer of history that feels alive and ever-present. Visitors who explore Belmont Plantation during the evening often report seeing spectral figures walking the grounds. The figures are faint, yet unmistakably human in shape, gliding across the lawns or appearing near the tree-line. They move slowly, deliberately, as though following routines from another era. Some witnesses describe seeing them pause near the old garden paths or the steps leading to the main house. Their outlines hazy and indistinct, dissolving into the twilight when approached. The figures carry with them a sense of history, of lives once lived within the boundaries of the estate. Inside the mansion, the sense of presence is even more pronounced. Doors swing open and closed without explanation, sometimes softly, sometimes with a sudden force that startles those nearby. The sound is distinct and deliberate, echoing across hallways that have remained empty for decades. Visitors have recounted pausing in quiet rooms, certain they heard the faint creak of floorboards or the movement of objects, yet finding nothing amiss. These subtle disturbances create an atmosphere in which the past feels interwoven with the present, a tangible reminder that the mansion holds memory within its walls. Faint cries have also been reported within the rooms, voices that carry a tone of distress or urgency. The sounds are never clearly identifiable, yet they are unmistakably human. They drift through the corridors and echo off the walls, lingering long enough to create an impression of unseen inhabitants. Some visitors describe the experience as chilling, yet compelling, a momentary connection to events or emotions that have long since passed, resonating in the quiet spaces of the plantation. One witness described walking along the veranda just as twilight gave way to night. A figure appeared on the far lawn, moving slowly toward the garden gates. The silhouette was human in shape, yet ethereal, blending with the fading light. As the observer drew nearer, the figure seemed to fade, leaving only a sense of presence and the soft rustle of leaves in its wake. Moments later, a door inside the house opened with a gentle creak, though the interior had been empty moments before. The experience left a lingering sense of awe and unease. The design of the mansion and its grounds enhances these experiences. High ceilings, long hallways, and expansive rooms create acoustics where sounds travel in unusual ways. A whisper in one corner can carry to another, and the movement of a door can reverberate across multiple rooms. The broad lawns and open gardens allow shadows to stretch and shift in the fading light, and the surrounding forest creates pockets where light and fog can create illusions of movement. These natural and architectural features contribute to the sense that the plantation is alive with unseen activity. These natural and architectural features contribute to the sense that the plantation is alive with unseen activity. Local lore suggests that the spectral figures and sounds may be the remnants of those who lived and worked on the plantation centuries ago. Some believe the spirits of former residents linger, moving through familiar spaces and maintaining routines long since abandoned. Others suggest the cries and movements are residual echoes of hardship, the emotional energy of those who toiled and lived on the land persisting in the environment. Regardless of interpretation, the accounts of visitors are remarkably consistent, describing similar sounds, movements, and impressions across decades. Experiencing Belmont Plantation at dusk or night is both unsettling and captivating. Visitors describe a heightened awareness of their surroundings, noting the texture of walls, the patterns of light, and the subtle creaks of the floors. Every shadow and movement carries meaning, every echo feels significant, and the sensation of being observed is persistent. The house and grounds engage the senses fully, creating a sense that history itself is walking alongside the living, silent yet palpable. The sensation of being observed is persistent. Even after leaving the plantation, the sense of presence lingers. Visitors report remembering the figures on the lawns, the swinging doors, and the distant cries, replaying them in their minds long after the estate has faded from view. The experience leaves a lasting impression, a connection between past and present that is difficult to explain but impossible to ignore. Belmont Plantation becomes more than a historic landmark. It becomes a place where memory, presence, and time converge. As night deepens over Loudoun County, figures continue to move along the grounds. Doors shift gently. Faint cries echo through empty rooms. Shadows traverse the hallways tracing the paths once walked by those who lived and labored here. The estate endures as a place where history is not only preserved in architecture and artifacts but also remains alive in sound, movement, and presence. Visitors who walk its grounds at dusk or after dark experience a profound connection to the past. A haunting and beautiful reminder that Belmont Plantation continues to live, watch, and whisper long after centuries have passed. Greenway Court, perched in the rolling hills of Clark County, carries the weight of centuries within its walls. The estatea's sprawling grounds and grand architecture tell the story of wealth, history, and family legacy. Yet beneath its stately appearance, there exists a layer of mystery that has intrigued visitors for generations. Those who step inside often report a sensation that the house is not entirely empty, that invisible eyes follow their movements through the corridors, and that the air itself carries whispers of lives long past. Walking along the hallways, some visitors have claimed to see figures moving just beyond their line of sight. Shadows flit past doorways, linger for a moment near windows, and then vanish as if absorbed by the walls themselves. The figures appear in varying forms, sometimes a full silhouette of a person, other times an indistinct shadow that seems to shift and breathe within the space. It is this fleeting quality that makes the sighting so compelling and unsettling, leaving witnesses questioning the boundaries between the present and the past. The atmosphere inside Greenway Court is thick with a sense of presence. Sudden drops in temperature have been noted near certain areas, as if the house itself exhales cold air in response to the living. These cold spots often coincide with sightings of apparitions or moments when footsteps echo along floors that appear empty, creating a connection between physical sensation and visual or auditory phenomena. Rooms that were once vibrant with daily activity now hold a quiet that seems to amplify even the smallest of sounds. Chairs creak, doors settle. And in the distance, the faint sound of footsteps can be heard moving across polished floors. The sounds carry in an unnatural way, sometimes too soft to discern direction, other times echoing clearly as if a person walks just ahead. Visitors report feeling the sensation of being followed, of glances brushing the back of their necks even when no one is visible. The library, a space once filled with conversation and study, holds particular intrigue. Some have reported seeing shadows moving between the shelves, as if someone walks deliberately from one section to another. The flicker of light across the spines of old books creates shapes that seem human, yet they dissolve the moment one tries to focus. Occasionally, the scent of old paper mingled with something faintly metallic fills the room, heightening the sense of a presence connected to the entity's long history. In the main hall, figures are sometimes glimpsed standing at the tops of staircases or disappearing through walls as visitors approach. These apparitions are often described as dressed in period attire, suggesting a link to the generations who once inhabited Greenway Court. Some have felt subtle touches on their shoulders or arms, gentle but unmistakable, though no one else is present. The effect is both disorienting and mesmerizing, as the senses confirm an interaction where logic offers no explanation. The grounds of Greenway Court are equally imbued with mystery. Figures are occasionally seen moving across the gardens or along the estate's long driveways, vanishing before anyone can reach them. Visitors walking the perimeter at dusk or night report hearing footsteps crunching along gravel, or the soft rustle of movement among trees and shrubs, yet when they look, nothing is there. The estate, it seems, extends its presence beyond the walls of the house, blending the natural and the spectral in a quiet, persistent tension. The sensation of being observed is constant. Lights in windows may flicker inexplicably, shadows fall where they should not. And sounds of movement echo through empty rooms. Some guests have described the sensation of passing through an unseen presence, a form that does not block light, but leaves an impression, a brush of air, or the faint weight of attention. These experiences are not threatening in a traditional sense, but they are profoundly affecting, leaving visitors aware of a reality that overlaps with their own. Greenway Court also holds moments of auditory phenomena. The soft creak of floorboards, the distant closing of doors, and occasional whispers that carry no recognizable words create a soundscape of the unseen. Some report hearing faint laughter or murmurs as though the estate remembers its inhabitants and shares fragments of its past with the living. The house's long history, its architecture, and its connection to generations of residents seem to create a repository of memory that manifests in sensory ways. For those who spend time exploring, the experience becomes an interplay of light, shadow, and presence. Apparitions appear and vanish, temperatures shift, and sounds carry without source. The estate's history feels alive, interwoven with each observation, each sensation, and each moment of uncanny awareness. Visitors leave with stories of fleeting glimpses, sudden chills, and encounters that linger long after departing the property. Greenway Court is not merely a house. It is a living archive of presence. A place where architecture and memory converge, with phenomena that challenge perception. Each visitor becomes part of the estate's ongoing story, sharing in the silent dialogue between past and present that continues within its walls. As one walks through Greenway Court, the air itself seems to pulse with memory. Shadows flit, cold brushes linger, and faint sounds of life long past accompany the living through the halls. This estate is a place where the boundaries between then and now are blurred, where the echo of footsteps, the impression of figures, and the sensation of presence remain as enduring as the bricks and timbers that compose the house. Greenway Court remains, in every sense, a home for history, memory, and the unexplained. Ash Lawn Highland, perched gracefully along the rolling hills of Charlottesville, Virginia, is a home of elegance and history. but also of quiet mysteries that linger long after the Dia's visitors have departed. Once the estate of James Monroe, the fifth President of the United States, the mansion holds more than political and architectural significance. It carries echoes of lives lived within its walls, traces of footsteps and presences that remain even when the air is still. Guests stepping onto the grounds often feel a shift in the atmosphere, a subtle awareness as though the estate is observing them. The gardens, lush and meticulously maintained, seem to breathe with the weight of history. Shadows of old trees stretch across pathways, and in the rustle of leaves, some have claimed to hear faint footsteps that cannot be traced to any living being. Figures, pale and fleeting, have been glimpsed near the windows, watching silently, vanishing when attention turns toward them. Inside the mansion, the air is thick with a sense of presence. The sound of footsteps following them from room to room, a slow, measured pace. A coldness brushing past, subtle but unmistakable. Moving through the hallways and staircases as if the past is moving alongside the present. The study rooms, once the domain of Monroe himself, carry particular energy. The faint rustle of papers and the occasional creak of a chair shifting slightly without touch creates an impression that the rooms are still being used, that thoughts and actions of the past play out quietly in the corners of memory. Shadows have been seen crossing doorways, figures dressed in the period attire of the estetia's early days. Retreating when observed, leaving only an impression in the mind's eye. The bedrooms and private chambers hold another layer of mystery. Guests report feeling a presence as if unseen eyes are watching. A subtle tension in the air that heightens their senses. At times, soft whispers drift through the hallways, indistinct and fleeting, impossible to attribute to any human source. It is as though the mansion itself is breathing with the memory of those who once lived there, carrying their routines and moments in silence. The dining rooms and parlors echo similar phenomena. The faint sound of footsteps or movement across polished floors can be heard when no one is present. Some visitors have experienced the sensation of being gently guided or observed, an invisible attention that is both calming and unnerving. Shadows flit along walls and through windows, seen from the corner of the eye and disappearing when confronted directly. The gardens and terraces amplify the sense of lingering presence. Evening visitors describe the air as heavier, more aware, as though the land itself remembers the lives that unfolded across it. Figures appear among the hedges or near the edge of the terraces, pausing as if to watch the modern-day guests, then vanishing into the darkness or behind trees. The estate's history feels alive in these moments, a bridge between centuries. Many of the reports focus on subtle interactions. Doors have been known to open slowly without cause. Small objects have shifted slightly. These occurrences are brief and never threatening. It is a space where the past continues to exist in quiet, almost imperceptible ways. The estetia's connection to James Monroe adds another layer of fascination. Rooms associated with the president often feel charged, a subtle sense of history interwoven with the unexplained. Visitors have sensed figures moving deliberately through these spaces, glimpsed shadows at windows, and experienced cold air that seems to gather in corners where none should exist. These moments invite reflection, a contemplation of life long past yet still present. Even the hallways and staircases hold their own stories. Footsteps echo along the floors, soft and deliberate, pacing in ways that suggest a rhythm from another time. Guests have felt invisible presences alongside them, sometimes brushing past gently, leaving a chill in their wake. Mirrors reflect nothing unusual, yet the feeling of being observed persists, a subtle tension in an otherwise serene environment. Throughout the estate, Ash Lawn Highland maintains a quiet dialogue with its visitors. The mansion, gardens, and terraces convey history not only through architecture and preservation but through presence, shadow, and sound. The estate seems to carry the memory of every person who lived, worked, and moved through its spaces, preserving their essence in a form that interacts with the present in fleeting, mysterious ways. Walking through the gardens, observing the architecture, or pausing near a window. One senses that the estate is alive with more than history alone. The echoes of footsteps, the faint glimpses of figures, and the subtle shifting of air all suggest a world where past and present coexist. A quiet communion of memory and spirit that leaves an indelible impression on every visitor. Ash Lawn Highland is not simply a historical site. It is a living testament, a place where the presence of James Monroe and those who inhabited the estate continue to linger. Shadows move, footsteps echo, and the faintest whispers carry through the halls. All reminders that history is not merely written but lived, remembered, and experienced by those who enter its space. Every room, every path, and every terrace contributes to this living narrative. Guests leave with more than memories of architecture or gardens. They carry the sensation of having walked alongside history itself. The presence of figures at windows, footsteps in empty halls, and the subtle weight of unseen attention combine to make Ash Lawn Highland a place where the past quietly observes, interacts, and endures, ensuring that the estate's legacy is both tangible and felt. Visitors depart with an awareness that Ash Lawn Highland is more than a home. It is a space where time layers upon itself, where the echoes of those who lived and moved within its walls continue to resonate. The experience is subtle yet profound, leaving an impression that the estate is alive with memory, spirit, and the enduring presence of history itself. Bell Grove, in Middletown, is a mansion steeped in history, its walls bearing witness to centuries of life, celebration, and quiet reflection. By day, it stands as a monument to architecture and the lives of those who walked its halls, yet as dusk settles, the estate transforms. The air grows heavy with a subtle presence, and visitors often speak of sounds and sensations that hint at something unseen lingering just beyond perception. At night, music drifts softly from rooms that have long been empty. The strains of piano notes, faint and ethereal, echo along hallways where no instrument stands. Guests have described hearing laughter mingling with the melodies, as if invisible parties have been convened, repeating festivities from decades past. The effect is both haunting and mesmerizing, as though the house itself carries memory in its walls, inviting listeners to witness echoes of lives once fully lived. Shadowy figures sometimes appear in corridors, their forms fleeting and indistinct. Guests report a feeling of being observed, a gentle pressure at the edge of awareness, like the house itself is aware of each step. Doors may open slowly without cause, revealing empty rooms or hallways, only for the air to settle moments later, leaving no trace of the unseen visitors who passed through. The gardens of Bell Grove are also places of spectral activity. Walkways lined with hedges and flowering shrubs sometimes reveal fleeting silhouettes moving gracefully through the moonlight. Figures pause near benches or fountains, then vanish when approached, leaving only the rustle of leaves or the faint scent of roses. These moments evoke a sense of continuity, a delicate bridge between the past and the present, where the life of the estate continues in subtle, unseeable ways. Visitors often notice that certain areas are more active than others. The main hall, with its high ceilings and polished floors, seems to amplify the echoes of laughter and music. Guests walking through the hallways sometimes feel a brush of air or a light touch along their arm, though no one is there. The sensation is fleeting, yet undeniable, a reminder that the house carries more than history in its walls, it carries presence. Upstairs corridors, lined with portraits of former residents, have been known to evoke the strongest responses. Shadows appear near doorways or at the top of the staircase, and visitors occasionally catch glimpses of figures observing them from the corners of their eyes. The effect is subtle, often leaving a chill or a sense of wonder. But it is consistent enough that many return, hoping to encounter the faint traces of the lives that once animated the mansion. The piano room is particularly significant. Even when unoccupied, the faintest notes can be heard, echoing as though someone is seated at the keys. Guests have described pauses in the melody that seem to respond to their presence, as if the music itself recognizes the living. Laughter and whispers accompany the notes, a combination of sound and sensation that creates the impression of a lively gathering, forever frozen in time yet continually revisited by unseen participants. Outside, the Estatia-S landscape contributes to the mysterious ambience. Shadows cast by trees and architectural details seem to move independently. Lights from distant sources sometimes flicker along the paths. And leaves in patterns that resemble speech, leaving visitors unsure whether they hear nature or the echoes of the past. Many who visit Belle Grove describe a feeling of being guided, subtly drawn toward areas where the activity is most concentrated. The house seems to invite exploration, revealing its mysteries gradually, rewarding patience and attention. Guests often pause in hallways or stand silently in rooms, sensing the continuity of life and memory that persists beyond physical existence. Each step becomes part of an unspoken dialogue between the living and the unseen, a shared experience of history and presence. Even mundane sounds take on significance. The soft thump of a door settling. Guests report that these sounds are not random, often coinciding with moments when shadows appear. Or the distant echo of footsteps becomes a reminder that the house is alive in its own way, suggesting a rhythm to the activity that mirrors human presence and interaction. Belle Grove's experience is unique for every visitor. Some witness only fleeting shadows. Others hear music or laughter. And a few encounter a combination of these phenomena. The mansion fosters an environment where history and the ethereal intersect, allowing the living to perceive glimpses of a past that persists quietly alongside the present. As guests depart, they often carry with them a sense of lingering presence. The memory of music, whispers, and shadowy figures remains vivid. And the mansion continues to resonate in their minds. Belle Grove is more than a historical site, it is a living archive of memory and spirit. A place where the passage of time does not erase presence, but instead layers it, creating a subtle, immersive experience that connects visitors to centuries of human life. And the gentle echoes that endure. Walking the corridors, pausing in the gardens, or listening in silent rooms, visitors to Belle Grove are recorded in artifacts and architecture. It is recorded in the very essence of the space, carried forward by unseen inhabitants who continue to inhabit the estate in quiet, unassuming ways. Every creak, shadow, and note of music becomes part of a larger story, one that merges the living with the spectral, leaving a lasting impression on all who pass through this extraordinary place. Stratford Hall, nestled along the banks of the Rappahannock River in Westmoreland County, Virginia, is a grand colonial estate that has witnessed centuries of history. By day, visitors explore its sprawling grounds, the elegant brick FAA sectionade, and the meticulously restored rooms that once belonged to the Lee family. The gardens are serene, the air fragrant with blooms, and the distant sound of water lapping along the river adds a sense of calm to the estate. Yet when evening falls and shadows lengthen, the house takes on a different character, one infused with echoes of its colonial past. Visitors who linger at Stratford Hall after dusk often report subtle, unsettling phenomena. Whispers float along the corridors, indistinct yet unmistakably human in tone. The voices seem to carry messages or fragments of conversation, drifting from one room to another and fading before they can be fully understood. Some observers describe the feeling of being addressed by a name they do not know, a sensation that leaves a lingering awareness of presence beyond the ordinary. The whispers are soft yet persistent, embedding themselves into the silence of the house and into the minds of those who walk its halls. Shadows appear in the windows and along hallways, sometimes moving independently of any natural light or reflection. Guests report glimpsing dark shapes out of the corner of their eyes, only for the forms to vanish when they turn to look directly. The movement is deliberate, smooth, and purposeful, suggesting figures that inhabit the house in a way that transcends time. These shadowy forms are often fleeting, but their presence leaves a lasting impression, a sense that the house is alive with memory and watchfulness. Some visitors have described sudden, cold touches, brief sensations that brush the skin without physical cause. These touches are not harmful, but they are startling, eliciting an immediate awareness of the unseen. The effect is cumulative, as footsteps, whispers, and shadows combine to create an atmosphere that is both eerie and fascinating. Each sensory detail of the creak of floorboards, the chill of the air, the faint glow of lantern light heightens the impression that the colonial residents of Stratford Hall may still linger, their presence woven into the very fabric of the estate. One visitor recounted walking through the main hall just as twilight settled over the grounds. The fading sunlight cast long shadows across the polished wooden floors, and the distant murmur of the river added to the stillness. Suddenly, a whisper floated through the corridor, carrying a tone of urgency and familiarity. Startled, the visitor turned to see a shadow move across the far wall, seemingly gliding toward an empty room before vanishing into darkness. The experience left an indelible impression. A realization that Stratford Hall holds more than historia, it holds echoes of the lives that once animated its halls. The architecture of Stratford Hall enhances these experiences. High ceilings, long hallways, and polished floors create acoustics where even a small sound travels unexpectedly. Footsteps echo through the rooms, and whispers can carry farther than anticipated. Candlelight and lanterns cast shifting shadows that twist along walls and ceilings, making familiar corners appear mysterious. Windows reflect movement subtly, creating an interplay of light and dark that blurs perception and fosters a sense of presence beyond the visible. Local lore suggests that the colonial-era figures are the spirits of the Lee family and their contemporaries. Some believe these apparitions are tied to moments of joy, sorrow, or vigilance, replaying their routines for those sensitive to the energy of the house. Others propose that the spirits remain as guardians, silently observing the estate and preserving its history through subtle presence. Visitors consistently report similar experiences of whispers, shadows, and cold touches indicating that these phenomena have persisted across generations. Experiencing Stratford Hall after dusk leaves visitors with a mixture of awe and unease. The house feels alive, imbued with the memory and essence of its long-past inhabitants. Every creak, shadow, and whisper amplifies the sense that the estate is not merely a static historic site but a living repository of human presence. The awareness that one is being observed, even subtly, heightens the senses and creates a connection to the past that is immersive and unforgettable. Even in the absence of direct sightings or sounds, the house retains its charged atmosphere. Guests report a persistent feeling of being watched, of invisible presences nearby. The whispering, shadows, and sudden cold sensations suggest that Stratford Hall continues to hold the lives and stories of its colonial residents within its walls. The experience emphasizes the deep history embedded in the structure, a reminder that the estate is more than architecture and artifacts. It is a space where past and present converge. As night settles over Westmoreland County, Stratford Hall stands in quiet grandeur. Whispers drift through empty corridors, shadows move along hallways, and brief, cold touches brush against those who walk the estate. Figures in colonial attire may glide silently through rooms, unseen yet undeniably present. Stratford Hall endures as a place where history lives not only in the memories of visitors but also in the lingering presence of those who once called the house home. The estate remains a haunting and beautiful testament to the lives, stories, and echoes that continue to inhabit its halls long after the candles have been extinguished. Rosewell Plantation, set along the quiet banks of the York River in Gloucester County, is a mansion frozen in time. Walking through the overgrown gardens, visitors report glimpses of figures dressed in period attire. Shadows move along the riverbanks, and pale forms appear near windows, pausing as if observing the living from a distance. These apparitions are fleeting, often disappearing when approached, leaving only the faint impression of movement behind. Inside the mansion, the halls carry a weight of memory. The floorboards creak underfoot as if echoing footsteps from another era. Chandeliers sway slightly, though no breeze enters the rooms, and doors open and close with a deliberate slowness, suggesting the passage of invisible occupants. Each sound seems intentional, drawing the living deeper into the presence of the past. Each sound seems intentional, drawing the living deeper into the presence of the past. The rooms themselves are heavy with the sense of former life. Visitors speak of cold spots that appear suddenly, particularly near corners and doorways, where the air chills as though a spirit passes close by. Shadows flit across walls, forming shapes that resemble the human form, moving in patterns that suggest consciousness, yet vanish before full recognition. The river outside adds to the plantation's mysterious character. On misty mornings or during quiet evenings, figures are sometimes seen along the banks, appearing to interact with the water or simply to linger in contemplation. Their presence is accompanied by faint sounds as soft splashes, distant murmurs, and the subtle brush of movement against riedza that suggest life yet defy explanation. Some visitors have reported seeing multiple figures simultaneously, walking the halls or standing near the staircase. They are described as dressed in long coats, dresses, and hats from centuries past, frozen in gestures that speak of daily life now long gone. The effect is both haunting and surreal, as though history itself has chosen to linger in these spaces, creating a bridge between past and present. The plantation's dining hall carries its own tales. Chandeliers swing slightly even when untouched, and chairs appear shifted from their original positions, as if invisible diners once occupied the space. Footsteps echo around the walls, rising and falling, sometimes matching the rhythm of a distant conversation. Those who linger report a sensation of being watched from multiple angles. Yet no living person is present. Beyond the house, the estetia's surrounding grounds amplify the sense of the uncanny. Visitors walking along the driveways or across the lawns report glimpses of shadows flitting between trees, sometimes pausing as though curious. Strange sounds, like faint rustling or soft thuds, appear to follow them. Yet no source can be found. The environment itself seems aware of those who intrude, responding in subtle, unexplained ways. The mansion is particularly active at night, when the absence of light allows the imagination to heighten the experience. Figures are seen gliding past windows, standing on porches, or moving through hallways. Occasional flashes of light appear in empty rooms, and the smell of smoke or candle wax lingers inexplicably in the air, as though a forgotten moment from the past has been replayed for the living to witness. Visitors who enter the estate's bedrooms report the most intimate encounters. Cold touches along shoulders or arms are commonly described, and the feeling of a presence sitting or standing nearby is strong. Some report hearing whispers that do not form words, or soft murmurs as though conversations continue in a language now lost. These moments leave a lasting impression, a sense that the house holds not only memory but sentience. The plantation's kitchen and service areas are no less enigmatic. Pans, utensils, and furniture occasionally move, settling in slightly altered positions when observed later. The atmosphere suggests the activity of servants long gone, carrying out routines that have become spectral echoes, providing glimpses of the daily life that once animated the estate. Even the exterior of the plantation reflects its haunted character. Windows reveal movement where none should exist, and shadows seem to pause at the edges of the structure, observing the living. The river reflects figures that vanish as quickly as they appear, and the interplay of moonlight and water creates illusions that feel palpably real. Rosewell Plantation stands as a repository of memory and presence. Figures appear and vanish, sounds echo, cold spots appear, and subtle movements suggest activity in the absence of life. Every visitor becomes aware that the estate is more than stone and timber, it is a living witness to the past, a place where history manifests in sensory ways, and where the presence of those long gone continues to touch the world of the living. Each step through the halls, every glance toward the windows, and every pause in the gardens, reminds those who enter that Roswell is not simply abandoned. It is a place where the past and present converge, where invisible lives linger, and where the ordinary becomes infused with the extraordinary. For those who listen and look carefully, the mansion tells its story through shadow, sound, and sensation, leaving a permanent impression of mystery and spectral wonder. The haunting of Roswell Plantation is subtle yet pervasive. Figures in old attire move across lawns and hallways. Chandeliers swing, doors creak, and cold air seems to follow footsteps. Shadows linger at the edges of vision, the river reflects presences that vanish when approached. Whispers drift through empty rooms. Visitors leave with a sense of having walked among the past, aware that the mansion's spectral energy remains ever present, watching, and waiting, silently preserving the lives and memories of those who once called Roswell home. Tuckahoe Plantation, nestled in the quiet countryside of Richmond County, Virginia, stands as a reminder of a complex past. Once a thriving plantation, its stately home and surrounding fields hold the echoes of generations who lived, worked, and toiled upon the land. Visitors report that the past lingers here, not only in the history recorded in documents and architecture but in the atmosphere itself. Subtle and palpable, carrying traces of lives long gone. Walking the grounds, one notices a shift in the air. The breeze seems to carry more than just the scent of grass and earth. Those who venture here after hours report seeing figures moving silently. Those who venture here after hours report seeing figures moving silently across the plantation, shadowy forms that vanish when approached too closely. Some appear among the tall grass of the fields, walking with measured steps, heads bowed slightly, as though focused on labor or ritual, yet there is no sound of footfalls on the soil. Some appear among the tall grass of the fields, walking with measured steps, heads bowed slightly, as though focused on labor or ritual, yet there is no sound of footfalls on the soil. Inside the mansion, the presence is even more intimate. Visitors have described glimpses of figures moving through the grand halls, dressed in period clothing, fading into corners or behind doors before they can be fully observed. It is as if the walls themselves remember the voices and actions of those who once carried out their daily lives here, both servants and the families who oversaw the plantation. The kitchen and service areas hold a particular energy. Ghostly figures have been reported here as well, moving with purpose through spaces where meals were prepared and orders carried. Some visitors have felt subtle brushes of air along their arms, the sensation of unseen hands moving past, or caught the faint scent of smoke and cooked food lingering where no fire burns. The presence is never threatening, yet it carries weight, a reminder that the work and lives of those who lived here were intense and demanding. Outdoors, the fields and pathways reveal more subtle phenomena. Some report seeing a line of figures moving slowly among the crops, vanishing one by one as if pulled back into another time. The wind carries faint whispers, as though remnants of conversations or instructions echo through the centuries. Shadows cross the long avenues, pausing momentarily at familiar landmarks, the old oak trees or the edges of the garden, before melting into the landscape. The plantation's history adds depth to these experiences. Every room, every field, every hallway carries the weight of human endeavor, struggle, and sorrow. The slave quarters, though long gone in physical form, leave a resonance in the imagination of visitors. Some have felt an intense stillness, as if watching eyes linger from hidden corners. Whispers and fleeting glimpses of figures evoke the presence of those whose labor sustained the estate, reminding visitors of the human stories etched into the land itself. Even the main house maintains subtle indications of lingering presence. Furniture has been reported shifting slightly, as if someone passed by. Doors open slowly when no one is near. And the faintest creaks of floors echo when the mansion is otherwise still. Guests have sensed a presence standing just out of sight, feeling watched or accompanied as they move from room to room. Mirrors and windows sometimes reflect what is not physically there. Shadows that vanish when fully seen. A visual trace of the past interacting with the present. The gardens and terraces carry similar impressions. Figures have been observed pausing near flower beds or benches. Shadows cast by invisible forms. Visitors walking alone report that sounds of activity of footsteps, soft voices arise from the air itself. The impression is of a place alive with memory, where the lives of those who worked, walked, and lived here continue to leave marks, subtle and ethereal, on the world that persists today. Some of the most vivid accounts come from evening visits. Whispers become clearer, though still incomprehensible, and glimpses of movement occur at the edges of vision. Guests often describe the experience as both haunting and humbling, a reminder of the complex history and the human stories that shaped the estate. Tuckahoe Plantation does not frighten so much as it invites reflection. Each step across its grounds carries the weight of lives intertwined with the land. The sounds of unseen activity, fleeting shadows, and whispered echoes create a tapestry of memory, connecting visitors with the generations who lived and labored here. It is a living history, preserved not only in architecture and documents but in the very atmosphere, where the past and present intersect quietly and profoundly. The estate continues to draw visitors, historians, and curious travelers alike. Many leave with an impression that cannot be fully explained by architecture or history alone. The shadows, the whispers, the subtle presence of figuresa. These experiences convey a sense that Tuckahoe is more than a historic site. It is a space where the lives and labor of those who lived and worked here endure in the world around it. Softly remembered, softly observed, and quietly continuing their existence alongside the present. Every corner of the plantation, from the halls of the mansion to the farthest reaches of the fields, tells a story not only of grandeur and history but of human resilience and memory. The presence of ghostly figures, whispered voices, and fleeting shadows reminds visitors that Tuckahoe Plantation holds more than the tangible artifacts of the past. It holds echoes of lives once lived, preserving their legacy in a way that is at once subtle, haunting, and profoundly moving. For those who walk its grounds, Tuckahoe Plantation becomes more than a historical landmark. It becomes a place where the past is felt, where the invisible labor of those who worked and lived here lingers in every corridor and field. Visitors leave with the sense of having walked alongside history itself, sharing space with the spirits of the past who continue to move, watch, and whisper through the land. Tuckahoe Plantation stands as a testament to history, memory, and presence. Its ghostly figures are not threats but reminders. Whispers of human stories that remain woven into the estate. The experience is subtle yet powerful, leaving each visitor with a lasting impression of a place where the past quietly continues to exist. Witnessed through fleeting glimpses, soft sounds, and the gentle acknowledgement of those who came before. Poplar Forest, Thomas Jefferson's private retreat, is a place where history is tangible, yet there are whispers of something beyond the ordinary. By day, its architecture and gardens reflect Jefferson's meticulous taste and innovation. But as night falls, the estate takes on a different quality. Visitors report subtle movements in the shadows and the faint sound of whispers that seem to drift along the corridors, drawing attention to spaces that are otherwise empty. Guests often notice shadows near windows, elongated and shifting as if something or something is standing there watching. These figures are never fully visible, disappearing when approached, leaving behind only the impression that they were present. The effect is disorienting and compelling, prompting visitors to pause and listen, attuned to the nuances of a space alive with memory and unseen presence. Corridors seem to carry voices that are barely audible, Whispers float through the hallways, sometimes rising near the ceilings or drifting close to the floors. As though the house itself is recounting fragments of the past. Guests have reported hearing their own names murmured softly, often accompanied by a chill in the air. A sensation that something is aware of their presence. The rooms of Poplar Forest, with their carefully arranged furnishings and detailed woodwork, are often the setting for subtle activity. Chairs may appear slightly moved, or doors ajar when no one has passed through. Visitors describe feeling a gentle pressure, as if someone has brushed past them, though the rooms remain empty. These small disturbances enhance the sense of a living history, where the line between the present and the echoes of the past is blurred. In the gardens, shadows play a different role. As dusk descends, visitors notice forms that seem to move among the hedges and flowering plants. Figures appear at the edge of paths, vanish when approached. And sometimes the faintest laughter or rustle of fabric accompanies their fleeting presence. The gardens, normally tranquil and ordered, become a stage for these ephemeral manifestations. Reminding visitors that memory lingers beyond physical forms. Particularly near the windows, guests report seeing figures that appear partially formed, sometimes observing the landscape or turning as though aware of those inside. These sightings are brief, almost dreamlike, yet leave a lasting impression. The combination of light, shadow, and perspective creates an unsettling effect, making it difficult to distinguish between what is a trick of the eye and what may be something more. The interior architecture contributes to the sense of presence. The open ceilings, wide hallways, and carefully designed sightlines allow sound and movement to carry in unexpected ways. Footsteps echo strangely, sometimes seeming to come from behind a visitor when no one is there. These auditory phenomena, coupled with visual impressions, reinforce the idea that Poplar Forest is a place where the past remains accessible, layered over the present in subtle, continuous ways. Some guests have reported objects appearing slightly altered. A desk may hold papers shifted from their original arrangement. Or a chair might be pulled out from a table. These changes are minor but consistent, hinting at the possibility of unseen inhabitants interacting with the environment. While there is never a sense of threat, there is an unmistakable feeling that the estate maintains its own rhythm and awareness. Engaging those who walk its halls. Visitors walking along the upper corridors often feel a presence close by. Shadows may cross the hall in peripheral vision, prompting a turn of the head, only to find empty space. The sensation of being watched is persistent, though never aggressive. It is as if Poplar Forest preserves a record of its former lives, offering glimpses to those who are observant enough to notice the subtle markers of presence. Even in the outdoor spaces, the STTA's layout encourages encounters with the unseen. Walkways, terraces, and gardens are punctuated by glimpses of movement, soft sounds, and the occasional whisper of air that carries almost like a voice. Visitors report feeling a gentle tug on the senses, as if the estate itself guides their attention toward areas where history is most palpable. The experience of Poplar Forest is uniquely personal. Each visitor perceives different phenomena. From fleeting shadows to whispered voices. And the faintest sensations of touch. There is a quiet intensity to the space. An energy that is at once historical and ethereal. Those who linger long enough feel a connection. Not only to Jefferson and his time, but also to the continuing presence that subtly animates the estate. By the end of a visit, the impression of Poplar Forest lingers beyond the visual. The sound of soft footsteps. The sight of moving shadows. And the sense that the house itself holds memory in every corner. It is a place where history is alive, not in grand reenactments, but in delicate, almost imperceptible ways that bridge the past with the present. Walking through Poplar Forest, whether along its corridors or across the gardens, one experiences a narrative that is both tangible and intangible. The estate speaks through shadow, whisper, and subtle movement. reminding all who enter that the lives once lived here continue to resonate. Time may pass, but the essence of those who walked these halls remains, shaping an experience that is quiet, haunting, and unforgettable. Oak Hill in Annandale, Virginia, is a stately historic estate. The elegant FAA section Ade framed by towering trees and sprawling gardens. By day, visitors admire the architecture, explore the manicured grounds. The sound of birds, the rustle of leaves, and the distant hum of the surrounding town. Yet as evening falls and the sun dips behind the trees, the estate seems to shift, revealing a presence that has lingered through the centuries. Those who explore Oak Hill after dark often report seeing figures on the balconies. At first, the shapes appear distant and indistinct, fleeting glimpses of movement against the soft glow of twilight. They move as though carrying out routines from a long-past era. Observers often describe a mixture of curiosity and unease, the figures appearing human yet intangible. Their presence impossible to approach or touch. Inside the mansion, the atmosphere is equally compelling. Visitors frequently report hearing music in empty rooms. The melodies are faint yet unmistakable, drifting through halls and stairways as if played by unseen hands. Sometimes the music resembles a piano softly played, other times the tones carry the echo of a string instrument. The sound is clear and haunting, filling the room with a sense of life long after the musicians have disappeared. Guests often pause, straining to hear, yet no one is present. The instruments remain silent, the air still, and the music seems to originate from nowhere, leaving an impression of lingering memory and history. Some visitors have experienced more personal sensations. A fleeting touch on the shoulder, subtle yet unmistakable, can startle the observer, a reminder that they are not alone. Whispers call out names, soft and urgent, emanating from rooms where no one walks. These interactions are brief and gentle, yet profoundly affecting, creating an awareness of unseen presences that inhabit the estate. Observers describe a sense of being watched, a quiet attention that follows them from room to room, blending curiosity with the sensation of the unknown. One guest recalled exploring the mansion just as darkness settled across the gardens. The house was silent except for the faint rustle of wine through the trees. As they ascended the staircase to the upper balcony, a shadow appeared at the far railing, momentarily outlined against the fading light. The figure seemed poised to move, then vanished as the visitor drew closer. Moments later, the faint strains of music drifted from the parlor below. A melody both familiar and haunting. No instrument was present, no one visible, yet the sound resonated as though the mansion itself were speaking through history. The architecture of Oak Hill enhances these experiences. High ceilings, long corridors, and wide staircases create acoustics where sounds carry and echo unpredictably. A creaking floorboard or a shifting door amplifies tension, while the flickering of candlelight or dim lighting casts moving shadows that appear animate. Balconies overlook the gardens and terraces, allowing distant movements to be seen as figures glide across the upper levels. And windows reflect shapes that seem to belong to another time. These physical features combine with the natural environment to create an immersive experience that blends perception, memory, and imagination, creating an immersive experience that combines the physical and natural to create an immersive experience that blurs the lines between reality and fantasy and inspires the imagination. This immersive experience blends perception, memory, and imagination and creates an otherworldly atmosphere that is both haunting and mesmerizing. A true masterpiece of cosmic horror that will leave viewers in awe. Local lore suggests that the spectral figures, music, and touches are the echoes of Oak Hill's former residents. Some say they are the family members or staff who once inhabited the mansion, replaying their routines or maintaining a quiet vigilance over the estate. Others believe that the estate retains emotional energy from centuries of life, manifesting in the forms, sounds, and sensations reported by visitors. Regardless of the source, the consistency of the experiences across time gives Oak Hill a reputation as a place where the past remains present, a site where history moves through the very air and spaces of the house. Experiencing Oak Hill at night leaves a profound impression. The combination of visual glimpses, auditory phenomena, and tactile sensations engages the senses fully, creating an awareness of history and presence that is immersive and affecting. Visitors report heightened perception, noticing subtle details in the architecture, the gardens, and the interplay of light and shadow. Each step along the hallways and balconies becomes a moment of connection, bridging the gap between past and present. Even when no figures are visible and the music is absent, the estate retains a palpable sense of memory and presence. Visitors often describe leaving with the feeling that the mansion continues to observe, that the halls and rooms echo with life long after the living have departed, but remains alive in the spaces where it occurred. As night deepens over Annandale, Oak Hill stands in quiet majesty. Figures may appear on the balconies. Music may drift from empty rooms, and subtle touches and whispers may reach those walking the halls. The estate endures as a living witness to centuries of life, memory, and presence. Visitors who explore Oak Hill after dusk encounter more than architecture and gardens. They encounter the lingering essence of those who came before. A spectral echo that continues to move, watch, and whisper long into the night. And so, our journey through Virginia's haunted historic homes comes to an end. Though perhaps some shadows followed you home. 20 estates, each filled with history, mystery, and restless spirits who refuse to rest. If you ever wander into these historic homes at night, remember. The air may carry whispers, mirrors may show more than your reflection, and footsteps might echo from the past. Thank you for exploring with me tonight. May your nights be safe, your footsteps quiet, and your windows sealed. Before you go, tell me in the comments. Which haunted historic home gave you chills? And would you dare to spend a night inside one alone? Sleep carefully, dear listener. And beware the shadows lingering in the halls.